Hello, Bio 245 students. I am here to go through some terms on the list with you guys and to show you on the models where you can find these terms, because when it comes to time to do the practical, you will be expected to identify this list and these terms and be able to find them on any model that we could pull out and throw at you. So my goal here today is to go through this list, show you on a model so that you're ready to go for when the time comes for the practical. Okay, so I'm going to go in order, more or less, of how the list is. So if you want to follow along with your list, that's great. I would also recommend, of course, going through and writing some of those troublesome words that give you a hard time with spelling. But for the most part, I'm going to just be going in the order of the list so you can just follow along. Okay, so first things first, we have cephalic region. The cephalic region is actually the entire head. So it's not just the top of it or whatever, but it's the entire head. And the way I always think about this is I think about, if you're a nerd like me, you know about cephalopods, like octopuses and squids. They're called cephalopods because cephalic or cephalo means head, pod meaning foot. So their whole body is their head. That's how they go around, is head first. So anyway, that's what I think of, that's how I remember it. Next is frontal. Frontal is just going to be the forehead. Okay, and that'll come into play later on. So the better that you learn these terms now, the more they're going to help when we go over the skeleton, muscles, and the brain. You'll see these terms pop up again and again and again. So memorize them now. Orbital is going to be the eye. You have your eyeball as an orbit or a round shape. That's what I always think of, so I always think orbital. Nasal obviously is the nose. Buccal is going to be the cheeks. So some people like to think like their cheeks puff out if you play the bugle. I always think like bucco is B-U-C-C-O is it's like a type of cheek muscle that you can eat in an Italian restaurant, so I think about that too. Auricular. Auricular is going to be the ear, so that's A-U, kind of like auditory is A-U. So auricular ear. Oral obviously is going to be the mouth. That one's pretty easy. Occipital is going to be the back of the head, and again this will become useful later, so definitely make sure you guys remember this. But occipital is going to be the back of the head. Mental is going to be the chin, so right here is going to be mental. And I always think about like the thinker, and whenever he does his little thinking pose, he has his fist on his chin. So I always think mental, thinking, chin. Cranial is going to be just the area that houses the brain. So cephalic, like I said, is the entire head, whereas cranial is just, and you can even see his brain kind of poking out there, but that's going to be cranial. Moving on down, we have the trunk as a whole. So the trunk is basically everything here. So that's not your, your neck and your head and your arms and your legs. Trunk's everything there. Cervical region is going to be the neck. So you might have heard of like cervical vertebrae or cervical support pillows and stuff like that. Thoracic is going to be the upper region of your trunk, so kind of where your chest is, where your lungs and heart are. That's going to be the thoracic region. Or if you're a nerd like me, you know about bugs, you know that the thorax is going to be kind of that middle segment. You have your head, thorax, and the abdomen, so thorax is in the middle. Sternal is going to be just the sternum here, so along the center of the chest. Mammary or pectoral region, surprise, surprise, mammary or pectoral region is going to be the chest. Okay, so yeah, there you go. Abdominal region is from here on down through here. So this is going to be your abdominal region where your abs are. Umbilical region is your belly button, so umbilical cord, umbilical region. Pelvic region is going to be the region inside of the crests of your pelvis, so right down in here where all your urinary and reproductive stuff is. The pubic region is going to be basically like the apex of that, or I guess the nadir of the pelvic region. So right here where the pelvic bone is, or pubic bone is, excuse me, so that's the pubic region. The coxal region is going to actually be your hip. Okay, so this whole region here is considered to be the coxal region. The sacral region is going to be the base of your spine right here. That's your sacral region, okay? Next, we have, I'm lost, inguinal region. The inguinal region is your groin in general. So this whole area here is considered to be the inguinal region. It's different from the pubic region because the pubic region is restricted to basically where his penis is sticking out. Let's just be for real. Right there, okay? So that's different, again, from the inguinal region, which is the groin as a whole. The dorsum is going to be the back. So the entire back here is going to be the dorsum. Scapular region is restricted to the shoulder blade, okay? And you'll learn later when we cover skeletal that that's where the scapula is. So anyway, shoulder blade is the scapular region. The perineal region I can't easily show you, so I'm going to describe it to you. but it's described as the diamond-shaped area between the anus and the genital region. So basically, I would have to like have him spread eagle on the table for you guys to see the perineal region, but that's where that is. The vertebral region is going to just be along the length of the vertebra, so very central on the body, or medial, as you guys will learn in a moment. And then lumbar. Lumbar is going to be the lower back. You guys have probably heard about lumbar support pillows that you put behind your back. So it's that curvature right here. Okay. Moving on to the upper limb, we have the deltoid region. The deltoid region is going to be your shoulder. Okay. Another word might be acromial, so whatever you guys are comfortable with. Axillary is going to be the armpit. So armpit region is your axillary. I always think you spray, Axe body spray in your armpit, axillary. Next is brachial. So there's your brachial region, basically below the deltoid region and to about your elbow. So that's going to be your brachial region. You guys might be familiar with maybe biceps brachii as a muscle. That's just one I was familiar with back in high school and stuff like that. Or brachial artery for when you're taking blood pressure. Anyway, brachial region, upper arm. Antebrachial, is coming from the word anterior, so like your forearm. So brachial is arm, ante means forward or anterior, antebrachial, forearm is your forearm. So there you go. The antecubital region is going to be the inside of your elbow. And there's no easy way to remember this. We do have, again, ante in there, so anterior means front of the body. The inside of your elbow, right there, cubital. Not a really great way to remember that, that's okay. Next is olecramal. Olecramal region is going to be your actual back of your elbow, okay? So that's olecramal. And I used to think like olecramal, kind of like old olecramal, and then cranial almost, like head. If you extend out your arm, your elbow looks kind of like a wrinkly old man's head. So I always think old cranial, so olecramal. Anyway, there you go. That's just my silly way of remembering. Carpal is going to be your wrists. You might have heard of carpal tunnel syndrome. That's when your wrists hurt doing stuff. So carpal's your wrist. Manus is your hand, your whole hand. Okay. Versus is palmar, which is just going to be the palm or the front of your hand. Digital is going to be the fingers, and pollex is the thumb. Next, moving on to the lower limb. Gluteal region. Gluteal is going to be your butt. Okay, so you probably have heard gluteus maximus being the major butt muscle. There you go, gluteal region. Femoral region is going to be just along your femur, so your thigh. That's going to be your femoral region. Next we have patellar. Patellar is your kneecap. The patella is the knee bone, so there you go, patellar region. Next we have the popliteal region. So the back of your knee is the popliteal region. And I always think like poppily crackly knees, and that's how I remember popliteal. Next is crural. The crural region is your shin, okay? So right along here. And it's a cruel world if you knock your shin on something, right? It's just really very painful. So that's your crural region. Next is your sural region. So crural is the front, and you can bang your shin on stuff, and it's really sad. Sural is just the back. Okay, so just opposite that. Okay. Next, we have the fibular region. People forget this one, okay? So keep this one in mind. Fibular is the lateral portion of the lower leg, okay? So your fibula bone lays underneath here, and also you'll eventually learn the fibularis longus, fibularis brevis. So the better you remember these regional names, the better off you're going to be. So external lateral part here of the lower leg, fibular region. The tarsal region is going to be the ankle. So that's where your tarsal bones are. Your pes, P-E-S, is going to be your foot, just as a whole. And the calcaneal region is going to be your heel, okay? So there's all your regions. Moving on.